Our reading this morning is How to Read a Poem, Beginner's Manual, by Pamela Spiro Wagner. First, forget everything you have learned. That poetry is difficult. That it cannot be appreciated by the likes of you, with your high school equivalency diploma and steel-tipped boots, or your white-collar misunderstandings. Do not assume meanings hidden from you. The best poems mean what they say, and they say it. To read poetry requires only courage, enough to leap from the edge and trust. Treat a poem like dirt, humus-rich and heavy from the garden. Later on, it will become the fat tomatoes and golden squash piled high upon your kitchen table. Poetry demands surrender. Language saying what is true, doing holy things to the ordinary. Read just one poem a day. Someday, a book of poems may open in your hands like a daffodil offering its cup to the sun. When you can name 5 poets without including Bob Dylan, when you exceed your quota and don't even notice, close this manual. Congratulations. You can now read poetry.
When we don't know what is to come, what's around that corner, how is that interview going to go? Will I like my new teachers? What about the new kids in my classes? Will I make new friends in my new city? Is this person trying to sell me something? Of course, that can be scary. The thing about beginnings, about new situations and new starts is, how do we decide the best way to approach them? Fear, apprehension, or with curiosity and interest? What about simply noticing? I'm sure that many of you are familiar with the concept of beginner's mind. It's a really useful concept from the Zen Buddhist tradition. Having a beginner's mind allows us to approach any situation, new or familiar, scary or fascinating, without any expectations or preconceived notions of the eventual outcome. Having a beginner's mind means open, engaging curiosity. In a new situation that we approach with a beginner's mind, it is noticing that allows us to refine our approach. When I was little, I was super scared of dogs because some people who lived near me were not very responsible pet parents and let their dogs go running around our neighborhood off-leash and unsupervised. So for a long time, my default setting when I saw a dog out and about was fear. For the record, none of those dogs ever hurt me, but they barked and sometimes they wanted to play in a way that I didn't understand as a child and I mistook it for aggression. Now, fortunately, I'm older and I know lots of awesome dogs and I have learned a little bit more about dog behavior. I live in a neighborhood right now where there's a lot of dogs. And I see many of them when I'm out on my morning walks and they're out on their walks with their people. When I'm meeting a new dog for the first time, I'll do my best to hold no expectations of the dog's behavior nor of the owner for our interaction. I'll try my best to notice nonverbal cues from both dog and person to the degree that that is possible. I'll also try to notice my own reactions, which are, of course, the only thing I have any real control over or access to, right? Am I appearing friendly or maybe overly so? Could my actions be considered aggressive if the animal is nervous? From the clues that I notice with an open mind, I can give more space to a nervous dog, or I can happily pet and greet a friendly one. Both fear and curiosity are mixed up in the great potential that exists in each new encounter that I have with dogs. And that's a pretty great way to approach beginnings of all kinds. Notice. Am I reacting with fear? What information am I receiving that makes fear seem like the proper choice? What if I got curious about that instead? Beginner's mind does not, and I do not want to encourage you to ignore the valid signals that tell you that a situation may be dangerous. Beginner's mind simply doesn't want that to be your default assumption. Beginner's mind is taught as a part of meditation practice, as a way to get curious about those things that come up when you try to meditate, not to get angry at them or feel guilty about them, but curious and receptive to the whole process. In doing a little refresher reading on beginner's mind, I found an article in the Tricycle magazine, which is a Buddhist magazine, by Yvonne Rand, where she describes a practice called the half smile, which I didn't know and I liked. Here's how she describes it. The practice of the half smile has nothing to do with feeling like smiling. For those of you who have not done this practice, you can think of it as mouth yoga. Just lift the corners of your mouth slightly, not a full smile or grin, for the space of 3 full breaths. Let your attention be on the sensation of slightly lifted corners of the mouth, and then with the 3 breaths. So let's go ahead and try that right now. You don't have to close your eyes if you don't want to. I'm not going to because I want to keep my eye on the page. But just if you want to close your eyes or cast your gaze downward or look where you're comfortable looking, just lift the corners of your mouth a little bit and breathe 3 times. Thank you for doing that with me. That were my 3 breaths. She writes that as she cultivated the habit of using this particular practice, she started doing it in the morning when she woke up, and that eventually it began occurring to her to use at many times throughout the day, whenever she noticed that she was starting to become nervous or anxious. She could pause for the space of 3 full breaths, thinking only about the corners of her mouth, not about the thing making her anxious or afraid. Of course, the key word there again is to notice. In our chalice lighting today and during our backpack blessing, we noticed that we don't even always recognize beginnings until after they've happened. And that's okay. We're constantly receiving information from many directions, and it only makes sense that some things are going to evade our notice. And patterns can't be recognized at the beginning because in order to even become a pattern, it has to repeat. I didn't notice that I'd become a regular reader of poetry for quite some time. I resisted it for reasons not unlike some of those listed in today's reading that Mary shared with us. First, forget everything you have learned, that poetry is difficult, that it cannot be appreciated by the likes of you with your high school equivalency diploma and steel-tip boots, or your white-collar misunderstandings. Do not assume meanings hidden from you. The best poems mean what they say and say it. Forget everything you've learned. Do not assume. Maintain a beginner's mind. Keep your mind fresh and awake, ready for new opportunities and new ideas. We share these ideas today to honor this season of beginnings, but also to give ourselves time and space to recognize that there are potential beginnings around every corner. And sometimes they are more meaningful than the big ones that we plan about and dream about. Don't let fear or uncertainty block your genuine curiosity. When you hear the first line of a book, poem, play, and you wonder, is this for me? Get curious about it. When you're uncertain about a situation or a person, get curious. And maybe, if you feel a little apprehensive, give that mysterious half smile. If someone nearby thinks you're smiling at them and not doing a meditative exercise, that's okay. In fact, that's great. Let that mysterious half smile open a world of possibility. This journey that we're all on can be such a long one. Think of this as one long reminder to be gentle with yourself, to be open to new and different ways of being, and to gather your companions for the journey as well. So may it be.
Join us in extinguishing our chalice and your home chalices if you have lit them with these words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. To the end of the morning's worship, and every ending, after all, may lead to another beginning. And so we begin a week of service, community, of striving for our Unitarian Universalist values within our hearts, noticing them, noticing where they are in the world and where they lack. Take that noticing with you. Quick note about the video we're about to listen to. It has lyrics so that you can see the words. It's like a snowy background, and that's what it was. But this is a song that was part of my ordination playlist called Let the Day Begin by The Call.
I would have loved to have had the actual music video for this is like circa 1986 and is very grainy, and somebody like recorded it on a VHS and then put it on YouTube. So it's a lovely song full of blessings for the beginning of the day, which arguably we're sort of in the middle of the beginning of the day, but I encourage you to take them with you and to take them to heart.
Stars.